Hey guys, so like you know, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I'm sorry. Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. This is Toddy One Skip. Thank you again for allowing me back into your day, spending a little bit of your time with me. I really appreciate it. If you guys would like, subscribe and share, I really appreciate that. If you don't like me at the end of it all, unsubscribe and take it all away from me. That's, listen. Okay, guys, I was telling you about the Mirriam video that Rabbit put up, and I have to say, I've been critical of Rabbit, right? And apparently a lot of people have been. But I don't have any complaints about the way that she made a platform for Mirriam to come on and explain what she's going through and gave her a safe place to talk. And that's all good. And I think that she asked the right questions. I think she was kind to Mirriam. And I think that went real well. And I'm hopeful that Mirriam feels really good about that. She definitely got her point across to me, I believe. So there's a few things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I'm going to show some clips of the interview. But here's some things that I just wanted to say. So I put out a video that kind of explained to you what I think is like the idiocy of Scientology. How some guy, a science fiction writer, the most prolific science fiction writer. He's written more science fiction than anybody else. You could look it up in Guinness Book of World Record. Has made, after saying that the only way to make money is to make himself a religion, makes himself a religion, the religion ends up having to do with science fiction because of Xenu. And anyway, comes up with two words that are already in the dictionary, suppressive and persons, puts them together, and everybody fears being these two words. They're two words. But everybody fears being a suppressive person because of the actions that follow those words. Because some guy defined them as being criminal, to be ashamed of. And also, again, the fact that if you're in Scientology and you behave poorly to somebody, apparently, it is the victim who has brought that on themselves. They have pulled that in. But once you leave Scientology, the person that didn't do the pulling in, who was safe while they were in Scientology because the receiver pulled it in, now the person that initiated it is responsible because they're no longer in Scientology. So once Mike Rinder was in Scientology, if he did abuse his family pulled that in. But once Mike Rinder left Scientology, it was Mike Rinder's fault. So again, I guess what happens is that once you're in Scientology and you're in there, it's the receiver's fault for what they pull in. But once you leave Scientology, it's the initiator's fault. So just what side are you on decides if you're a criminal or not. So how silly is that? And what does that show you? What are people arguing and fighting and holding so dear to themselves? I mean, think about the lunacy of that. And yet people are fighting and disconnecting over things like this. So it seems like Mike Rinder, just so you know, Mike Rinder seems to have come up with a lot of these programs that were disconnections and horrific ways. It reminds me of the show that I told you I was watching. I Almost Got Away with It. And it's about these criminals that do these horrific crimes. They get away from the law. They live their lives for 10, 15, 20 years. They end up getting caught. They come back. Their neighbors are like, oh, him? Never was it ever. That person, never ever. And then they want to come back and say, oh, judge, please give me a break. I've redeemed myself. It's not up to you to decide if you've redeemed yourself. It's up to the people that you've hurt to decide, did you redeem yourself? Not to me. Apparently, it looks like Mike came up with a lot of this because L. Ron Hubbard apparently didn't write some of this shit that Mike came up with. That's being ignored. everybody here that's left Scientology, it seems like, you go on the Scientology, those hate sites that has all of their names, like I was talking about. There's truth in them. Leah Remini said, listen, I'm going to come out and I'm going to tell you my side of the story. There was a lot of truth. Mike Rinder, a lot of truth. Leah Remini, it says that she ruined a family because she was cheating with a married man. So yeah, so Leah Remini says, it's not my finest moment, but yeah, I fell in love with my husband, and that was it. Unfortunately, there's some collateral damage. I mean, she owns her shit and says that that's what happened. You know, while Scientology just says, you know, she broke up a family. Instead of making it so humane where people could relate to it and say, you know, maybe not our finest moment, but I can understand how it would happen. It just becomes more humane when Leah tells her side of it. But there's bits of truth, as we see. Same thing with Mike, same thing with Aaron, all of it. So the fact is that these people, you know, they do have major flaws. Here's the thing. If Mike came up with this program that promotes the separation of families, I mean, and it looks like he was the head of OSA, so you can't play stupid. This behavior also reminds me of what they call dope fiend behavior. So somebody who is an addict, right? Or a gambler, somebody with an addiction that runs their life, and they live within that addiction, and they're able to say, oh, okay, I won't use anymore, and they're able to pull themselves away from that drug and or that addiction. But every day, their mind works the same way it did when they were using drugs. So it's a hustle. It's, you want to find out how you're going to get your drug, how you're going to meet your addiction, how you're going to make yourself feel better. Whether, you know, there's a saying, how do you tell when an addict is lying? When their mouth's moving. That's true. I didn't come up with that. So, I mean, because that's the thing, they're conniving, they're trying to get what they're trying to get because they feel like they need it, and a lot of times collateral damage comes into play. So that's called dope fiend behavior. That behavior doesn't stop when you stop using the drug. You have to stop thinking that way, because that behavior becomes other things. It becomes the way that you step on people to get what you want, to manipulate situations to get what you want. Okay, that's dope fiend behavior. You could stop doing the drug, but if you don't learn how to change your behavior, you still have fucking dope fiend behavior. And that's what's going on here with a lot of these people that have left Scientology. They still have the fucking behavior, and now they're being called out on it. All of them are being called out on it. And this is what Serge has been fighting for. This is Mirriam. I mean, and I questioned, what did they know before they left? And people said they didn't know. They didn't know. Bullshit, they knew. And now we're going to find out what they knew. So let's listen to this.
What I've done is I prepared a statement ahead of time because I'm nervous that I'm not going to remember all the things that I want to tell you, the things that are important to me. And so I made... I wrote some things up to share with you. I hope you'll bear with me. It will take me some minutes to rattle through that. Okay. I have pursued my criminal case against my father for the past 12 years. In March of last year, I conducted a 2.5-hour recorded phone call with the perpetrator, a person who I wish to never speak to again in my life. And yet I somehow found the strength to pick up the phone and ask him about the things he did to me when I was a child. I have pursued this alone. I have persisted through what seemed impossible. I never gave up. For many years, I've understood that the sexual abuse of me was known and covered up by Scientology, but I didn't know the depths of it. I didn't know the details of how it was done. Now I understand that the cover-up was by design at all levels of the organization, from the bottom to the top. Apart from bringing LAPD to the Aftermath show set and sitting in the room with me while I gave my statement to police officers, Leah Remini nor Mike Rinder have ever offered me any assistance, nor have I asked for it. Until recently. I am thankful for Leah Remini for being a badass troublemaker, for daring to ask questions. I am grateful that I got the opportunity to share my story on season 2, episode 1 of Leah Remini, Scientology and the Aftermath. The reach and impact that this show has had has been incredible. It is unfortunate that in the episode that I appeared in, a misrepresentation was created in the editing of 2 separate statements that I made about 2 completely different things. They were mashed together while a reenactment of a child in pajamas appeared on the screen. They did this because I refused to go into the details of description of sexual abuse acts perpetrated against me, and the producer pressured me while the entire crew watched from behind the cameras. Until I gave them something. You have to give the details, she said to me over and over. The public needs to know. Finally, I gave in and I said, okay, I'll tell you one detail. The inaccuracy that was inserted, sorry, I'm gonna say it again. The inaccuracy that was inserted into my story through the editing process minimizes the actual and very real harm that I experienced, which spanned across 2 countries and occurred over a time period of at least 4 years. Let me say that again. The details of what happened to me are captured in my police statements, the first of which I provided to Australian police in 2012, 5 years before the recording of the Aftermath show. The evidence supporting my allegations are 1, a recorded phone call which took place between myself and the perpetrator in March 2023, and 2, a video recorded interview conducted by law enforcement with the perpetrator abuse of me beginning in 1988. Detailed descriptions of the abuse by him have been either offered up, admitted to, or are uncontested by the perpetrator. On the 4th of January 2024, LAPD submitted their report to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office and let me say that again. On the 4th of January 2024, LAPD submitted their report to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office and is currently awaiting a decision to prosecute. Leading up to the Aftermath show, Rinder kept saying that my story is the one. I'm gonna say that again, guys. Sorry, I apologize. Okay. Leading up to the Aftermath show, Rinder kept saying that my story is the one that could bring down Scientology. In fact, he convinced production that my story was so valuable that it justified the cost of my airfare from Australia, which they were hesitant to pay for. He said to them, if there is one story you need to cover, it's hers. Why was he so adamant about the value, credibility, and accuracy of my story? A child sexual assault claim can only affect the reputation of an organization if they were themselves involved, covered it up, or knew about the cover-up of the crime. Why did Mike Rinder believe this to be true in relation to my case? Perhaps this will shed some light on that. Matt Pesh, a board member of the Aftermath Foundation, described in a YouTube video about a slush fund that he was required to keep to cover up crimes of a sexual nature. In an email to the mother of a child rape victim, the details of which she posted in a comment on Mike Rinder's blog, Matt Pesh describes that OSA covered up this instance of child rape in Florida in 1996, and that he, Matt Pesh, transferred funds to move the victim and the perpetrator across state lines to get them out of jurisdiction of where the crime was committed. Matt Pesh wrote, the OSA drill for this sort of thing goes something like this. 1, convince both parties that they are responsible and grossly out ethics. They have put the church at risk and they need to withhold what happened for the great good. Cover up anything that might not be good PR for the church. 2, get both parties immediately out of the state, in this case, Florida. 3, follow up to keep the flap secret and or make it go away. There aren't any Hubbard documents that exist which explicitly detail step-by-step how to cover up crimes of a sexual nature. If they existed, we would have heard of them. So this detailed step-by-step procedure had to have been created by someone else. Matt Pesh said it's an OSA drill. Who created, directed, or authorized this OSA drill? Could it have been the person who was the head of OSA for 25 years, Mike Rinder? The perpetrator in my case was moved to England in 1998 after the crimes against me were made known by him during an interrogation. In 2001, when I was 16 years old, I wrote a letter to David Miscavige via the Religious Technology Center letterbox demanding consequences for the perpetrator for what he had done to me, and soon after that, I was moved to England as well. Does this now sound familiar? In fact, the perpetrator received an order from his senior official to get me over there and make sure I liked being there. I have no problem with people whistleblowing, but should they be put on any foundation purporting to help victims of the type of crimes that they themselves covered up? Could that be considered a conflict of interest? Any organization, person, or group should be assessed for the harm that they do as well as the good. I retain my right to ask questions and to speak freely about the personal harm that I have experienced. Every time that Mike Rinder announces to the world that he destroyed people's lives, he is met with praise and applause. Is Mike Rinder so upstat that he can't be questioned? Or do I not have the rank to ask that question? People need to stop looking at this through the lens of an anti-Scientology movement. Oh, but gosh, what will this do to the cause? Anytime a person states that, they're at the risk of damaging their own credibility. If you believe that a crime only matters if a Scientologist committed it, and that the crimes of an anti-Scientologist should be absolved, then you are no better than the people who covered up for Danny Masterson.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what this young woman had endured? And how many people knew about it? And how many people helped the perpetrator? That is just so heartbreaking. I just can't believe that. I can't understand how Mike Rinder looked at her. Like she said, this stuff supposedly wasn't there. Like these procedures were not put in place, they did not exist when L. Ron Hubbard was around. That's what she's saying, right? So who would have put them there if it's an OSA, if that falls under the OSA umbrella, and the person who ran OSA is Mike Rinder? And how is he on the Aftermath Foundation? And supposedly he's on another foundation for children. Is that unbelievable? Also, here's, so I think that I understand the context of the letter and why Rabbit wrote the letter. Rabbit has a platform, and on her show, she was going to have a guest, Mirriam, who had some questions and allegations that she has tried to put forth to Mike Rinder on her own, but she was ignored by Mike, and she didn't want to be ignored anymore. And she said, hey, you have a larger platform. Can I come on your channel? Can I address this? And Rabbit accommodated that. But Rabbit, just like a television show, if somebody's going to come on and talk about somebody, they might reach out to the person that they're talking about and say, hey, this person's coming on the show. They have a few questions that they want to ask you. I'm going to go ahead and send you the questions because whether you come on the show or you don't come on the show, we're going to address it. But out of courtesy and out of consideration, we're going to go ahead and submit the questions to you in hopes that maybe you can address the questions. This way you could get your point across as well on the show. And, Mike said, fuck it. I have lawyers on retainers. These people are nobodies. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send this to a lawyer that is on retainer. It's not going to cost me a dime or anything. And that's what Mike did. And here's the thing, that letter was very accusatory. The 16 letters, the 16 questions, they were very specific. They would put anybody on the defensive. I think, honestly, that it was more important that we heard. Thousands, and it will be hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of people will hear what Mirriam is saying about Mike Rinder, those 16 questions, and hold him accountable.
Giving you the courtesy of that. Let me show that email, okay?
Okay.
And let's see. Just went to a different screen. So this is the email. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I have my screen behind over here. Said, hello, Mike. And notice the email is to Mike Rinder, not the Aftermath Foundation, not the Headleys. It is to Mike Rinder on his Hushmail email. It said, my name is Alex the Rabbit. I run the YouTube channel Down the Rabbit Hole News. A couple of weeks ago, a woman by the name of Mirriam Francis reached out to me for support. Mirriam would like to expose her recent experience with you in the failed attempts to get the affidavit and paperwork for the criminal case against her father. I'm reaching out to you before a discussion occurs on my public platform. I hope to provide an opportunity for you to make a statement or an interview regarding Mirriam's concerns. Mirriam has the following questions that she hopes to get answered from you. Written by Mirriam. Mirriam, did I write these questions? Let me know. Can you?
No.
Okay.
And so I would like to read them myself.
Please do.
And let me just say at the outset, you will see this very, very clearly, that these are written by me and that they were in relation to at least the first few, or at least there's a few in there that it's very clear that it's directly in relation to my experiences, like my personal experiences. So anyone that read that and knew my story would have known where this was coming from. Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So what I would like to do is, because I would like to wrap this up kind of soon, I want to just read the questions in full, and maybe I can come back another time if people have particular questions, like, well, why did you ask that in that way? I don't feel the need to justify that. I feel like I've laid out enough foundation, but if people want more clarification, then I'm happy to do that at a later date, okay? Because I'm gonna need a little bit of rest. I didn't sleep much last night, guys. Okay, so give me a break. All right. Okay, so the first one. Why did you feel it was okay to threaten and attempt to intimidate me? Okay, let me read that again. 1, why did you feel it was okay to threaten and attempt to intimidate me? Okay. 2, if you didn't commit any crimes, how could a record of our conversation be incriminating for you? 3, why did you lie to me and say that you had obtained the information that I needed related to evidence for my case in an attempt to use that as leverage against me? 4, you have given a statement in the Baxter case stating your direct involvement in legal issues at Flag in Clearwater. The mother of Tony Strawn's victim said in her testimony that Osa had told her not to go to authorities following the sexual battery offenses that he committed against her 2 children in 1994. What involvement did you have in dissuading the mother of Tony Strawn's victims not to go to authorities? 5, did you know that it's a crime in the state of Florida where you reside to tamper with a witness, which includes harassment, intimidation, and interfering with a victim? 6, most people get their Aftermath Foundation applications approved in 1 to 2 days. I applied for funds for post-traumatic stress relief, and it's been 4 weeks and no answer. Is that a result of your personal retaliation against me? 7, it is interesting that in relation to 2 separate locations that came under your purview at those particular times, both mothers of children who were sexually abused by Scientologists voiced the same thing, that they were told not to report to authorities or else there would be consequences with the psychs. Does the scare tactic, which correlates disclosure of child sexual abuse with a threat regarding psychiatrists, stem from L. Ron Hubbard doctrine? If so, please specify. Or was this by your design, under your direction as head of OSA International? 8, according to the information that I have, in 1985, you were directly involved with CCHR Australia. That's the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, by the way. Did you coach Jan Eastgate on how to coach Carmen Raynor to lie to authorities about the sexual abuse of her by her father? Now, I wanted to say one thing on that particular one. Carmen Raynor's case and the allegations that Jan Eastgate had coached her in 1985 made international, worldwide headlines in 2011 and 2012. This is a huge case in terms of the Scientology crimes against children. And I've searched Mike Rinder's blog for Carmen Raynor's name, and it's not mentioned in there. I just want to say that. Okay, so that's my question. Did you coach Jan Eastgate on how to coach Carmen Raynor to lie to authorities about the sexual abuse of her by her stepfather? I also just want to say there, and this is probably easily, I mean, I have documents about this, but you could probably Google it, the link between CCHR and OSA. So CCHR Australia came under the management of the Office of Special Affairs. Just so everyone knows. Okay, I think I'm being clear on that. From 1997 to 2004, what involvement did you have in the cover-up of the sexual abuse I experienced as a child? 10, during the time that you were head of the Office of Special Affairs, you received daily reports regarding any legal issues. Having reviewed the recently released OSA documents, it has become clear the absolute minute details of staff information that you were exposed to. There is no doubt in my mind that you would have become aware of the sexual abuse of me by my father, which you described to me as being of the highest priority and interest of OSA International. In covering up this crime, are you aware that you participated in a felony? 11, in your YouTube video titled How Scientology Covers Up Crimes, you present excerpts from 2 Scientology documents, one from the HCO Manual of Justice and the other from a policy called Attacks on Scientology. Please find a screenshot attached. Would you agree that the way that you have treated me in recent weeks is in line with what is detailed in those documents? Should we read that just quickly?
Yes.
Or could we just post it up and people can see it?
Yeah, and that is the screenshot, this one right here.
Cool.
Correct?
Yeah, so just a couple, I mean, this is what they had highlighted. This is literally a screenshot from this show. It says, if you're being investigated, sit tight, don't cooperate. Don't ever tamely submit to an investigation of us. Make it rough on attackers all the way. And maybe we can post that and people can read it in full. And we'll go to the next one.
And it's available on that video still.
Right.
For those, there's probably people that have seen it already. But yes, correct. Let me go up a little bit. Hold on.
Okay. There's also another video on there. I think it was right around the same time. I think it was before or after this one, maybe. Also along these lines, how Scientology covers up crimes, but specifically in relation to documents. There's a particular document there that they're describing, and it's in relation to the James Barber case or James Barber crimes allegations against a child of 15. That's a lot of information there. I would point to people to listen after you've watched this, find that video and watch it. And try not to be horrified, okay? Try not to experience the horror that I have been through for the last 2 months, okay?
Right.
Number 12. You work directly with lawyers like Lori Bartleson, as exampled in the attached document, to ensure that the children receive the least amount of education and work the most amount of hours. Your positions as head of the Office of Special Affairs and on the board of directors for the Church of Scientology International implicates you as a former child trafficker. And yet you have never been held accountable for the human rights violations that you committed for over 25 years. You were one of the major gatekeepers between the eye of the government and the children. Therefore, your actions prevented any intervention by governments for the welfare of the children. Have you personally done anything for restitution for these children whose childhoods you stole and whose harm you participated in? And if we can bring that document up.
Yep. Let me see. I think I have it here. Here we go.
I'm just going to just briefly, and again, please read this in full. Okay, so first of all, I would say that this is a document. It's an Office of Special Affairs document, and I'll point to something specifically in a minute. But it's also that includes a memo from a Scientology lawyer that I mentioned, Lori Bartleson, and it's basically what it details is this interaction between the Scientology lawyer, the Office of Special Affairs, in trying to obscure what's going on with the children in the way that they are trying to work out, okay, how do we maximize, as I said in the question, how do we maximize the amount of hours that the children can work legally, and how do we give them the least amount of education? Okay, so
Yes.
I want to read this part of it, okay? It says, there was a recent shore flap with the US government over the schedules that some minors on staff keep. A minor is someone under the age of 18, whereas as a church, we are arguably exempt from the federal and state labor laws. Laws regarding the employment of minors are broader. Federal officials consider that they have a right and responsibility for the minors, and if they receive a complaint regarding the treatment of minors, they are quick to investigate. It is necessary with this issue to lay out for all the laws regarding the employment of minors. Okay, if we could just scroll down to the next page, because I want to point to a couple of things. We'll keep going down.
Let me know when to stop.
Mandatory education requirement and then employment of minors. Okay, we can keep scrolling. Everyone can read this in full later. I want to go down to see let's see some signatures. I think it's maybe on the last page, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
Oh, last page.
Okay, right. Let's stop there. Let's pause there for a minute. Just pause there.
Yep.
Okay, just come down a little bit more. Oh, well, that's a good view. Okay, so this is approved by, who's it approved by? COOSA International. Okay. Okay. And then we have MR, just below the second page, top of the second page. These,
right here,
these
it says CSI. Right. These are initials, guys, right there. MR with Mike Rinder. Who are the other initials?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I'm sure other people would be able to find what that is.
Okay. So instead of actually having a signature, they would put initials as their signatures?
Well, because see, it's kind of like at the end there, it's approved by, and then they would have, I don't know. I mean, all I can say is what's on the document, but this is the official. It's like official Church of Scientology International, all rights reserved. I mean, this is an official board of directors document. That's what that's saying. Okay.
Absolutely. You want to go back to the questions, or is there something?
Let's go back to the questions. Now that's it for me. And as I said, people can have a look at that in full. Please read it in full. That's what I'm saying. I'm not just saying wild things. Okay. So there's reasons why I have enough information that allows me to ask these questions. Okay.
Okay.
Where are we? Okay, we did that one. Okay.
13?
13. Yeah, 13. If OSA International committed all the crimes and you were the head of OSA International for nearly 25 years, is it reasonable to assume that you committed crimes? 14. Evidence through passport records and video interview with the perpetrator show that the crimes against me began directly after you removed my mother and transferred her to another country when I was just 3 years old. Do you feel any responsibility in removing my mother's protection of me while I endured sexual abuse for years? Let me be clear. Evidence through passport records and the video interview with the perpetrator show that the crimes against me began directly after you removed my mother and transferred her to another country. I have the right to ask these questions of Mike Rinder. Okay. 15. Are you certain that it is appropriate for, sorry, let me start that again. 15. Are you certain that it is appropriate for you to hold a position on any board which concerns itself with the protection or recovery for children from abuse? 16. Is it true that Leah Remini, an actor, has the power to exonerate you of all your crimes, but the children whose lives you destroyed are not allowed to hold you accountable? There we go.
Guys, so what looks like to me, there's a few things that, I want to say, again, bullet point. So what looks like to me is that this woman has been abused since she was a child. The allegations are that Mike Rinder knew about it, hid it, helped the perpetrator, not the victim, hid behind it, found excuses later to say he didn't know about it. You guys should really watch this interview if you haven't. Because one, Rabbit deserves the clicks. She did the work. And, that's just fair. But there's proof that Mike had asked Mirriam, did you record any of this? Because it might be criminal to me. Like, I could indict myself, incriminate myself. So there's some things like that going on that you guys should really check out. But it seems to me what happened is she goes on the Aftermath show. She talks about her story. She later finds out that there's a specific affidavit that they have in their possession that they never tell her about. And then she asked for it. They conveniently say that they lose it. They don't get back to her the way that they should and everything. Now she's got all this resentment because she's now found out how Mike could be very much involved in this. She asks for a few $1,000s to help with some therapy. She's denied it. In the meantime, she had a relationship with Claire. Again, please check out the interview. I don't want to take Rabbit's interview, the whole interview. But there's very specific, please check it out if you want to know the full story. I'm doing the bullet points. The bullet points are, people asked, why did Rabbit get involved? Well, Rabbit was asked to get involved. And as somebody who has their own channel, Rabbit reached out and said, listen, I'm going to do this interview out of courtesy to you. Would you please either, come on my show and talk about it or answer these questions, because we're going to talk about this either which way. Mike figures, who the fuck are you? He gives it to a lawyer that's already on retainer. They send a stupid letter that includes something about dogs and fleas and ask them to show the letter. How stupid is that? Okay? And again, I'm saying that, Rabbit, the letter's to you, so the dog is Mirriam, unfortunately. Though, Mirriam, you ain't no dog. Mike is the fucking dog. And the whole. And all of it. Because you have proved to me Mike hasn't said anything. And again, if they would have given her $5,000, I think all of this would have been, And, again, this is everybody that's on the Aftermath Foundation. Why didn't Claire say, hey, let's just give her the money? Let's just give her the money. Let's help her. I mean, it's legitimate. She's been through things. She needs help. She hasn't asked for anything. She needs help. She needs help. I mean, I don't understand that. What the fuck are you there for? Really? Everybody that's giving, again, to the Aftermath Foundation really needs to see about who they're giving money to and hold these people accountable. Okay? So I just want to to say that it's unbelievable to me, the crime here, and it's not okay that Mike feels like he redeemed himself. And Leah Remini, I think if she was smart, she would distance herself from Mike Rinder, because people like that, they don't change. They just change for the environment. They're like snakes. They're like the snakes that change their color, chameleons that change their color to adapt. That's that dope fiend behavior that I spoke about. You know what I'm saying? The only thing in there is about surviving, manipulating, making it to the next day in the comfort that you want to be in. Shame on you, Mike Rinder, because this is bullshit. So, guys, again, you got to check it out. Please like, subscribe, and share. I got a video that I want to do, which is out of pocket for me, that I'm looking forward to. Has nothing to do with Scientology. I hope that you still will, give it a shot and listen to it. Please communicate in the chat. I always like when you do that. If you need me, reach out to me at toddy1skip@gmail.com. Don't forget, be better today than you were yesterday, but not half as good as you're going to be tomorrow. Guys, there might be some sort of fund me for Mirriam. I don't know. If there is, I'm going to go ahead and donate. But, always make sure what you donate to, and that it's legitimate, and that the person that it's supposed to go to, it goes to them. And hopefully 100% of it goes to them. All right, guys. Again, Issues with Toddy One Skip. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and share. So, yeah, guys, if you'd participate in the chat, I really appreciate that. I participate in the chat. Got a great little community going on there. Thank you for all my subscribers, the new ones, the old ones. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, be better today than you were yesterday, but not half as good as you're going to be tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Away. There aren't any Hubbard documents that exist which explicitly detail step-by-step how to cover up crimes of a sexual nature. If they existed, we would have heard of them. So this detailed step-by-step procedure had to have been created by someone else. Matt Pesh said it's an OSA drill. Who created, directed, or authorized this OSA drill? Could it have been the person who was the head of OSA for 25 years, Mike Rinder?